You were bullied as a child in Ocean Falls, and you wrote a book about that?
Yes, it all started actually when I came from England at 5 years old. We moved to Ocean Falls, BC, which is at the end of Rivers Inlet. It's now a ghost town because the mill did shut down and it was a company town. But when I first moved there at 5 years old and my brother at 8, we were dressing like little British kids, you know, socks and sandals and little dresses, and that's hardly the clothing that was being worn in a little bush town where there's wooden roads and bears walk the streets like dogs and cats. But because we had British accents and we were a little bit different, yes, got bullied quite a bit at the very beginning. A few years went by, however, and we were talking a little bit more Canadian. We lost our accents quite a bit, and my mom started making and buying us clothes that fit in a little bit more with what the kids were wearing. And actually I had a lot of friends. It wasn't until grades 6 and 7 actually where a family came from Vancouver, and a girl named Barb actually was in my class. And she was quite a mature looking woman, and she also came from Vancouver, so she was a little bit tougher. And very quickly I found I was getting bullied all over again. My friends became her friends. I lost my boyfriend to her. It was just terrible to be bullied all over again. It was like trying to escape before the end of the day, trying to find a way to get out of the class quickly so that they couldn't find me and pick on me all the way home. I found it quite terrorizing, as do most children that are bullied. And it's not just children. It's in our workplaces, it's in our schools, it's in our everyday lives. I don't think age matters. A bully is a bully. But I found out from my bully, who became my best friend, when I went back to Ocean Falls after I graduated from high school. We both ended up working at the Royal Canadian Legion, and we became best friends after that for over 40 years. So as it turned out, I found out later, after I had written the book, and I will explain how that came about, she made a very good point to me that bullies are also victims, and that they usually have something going on that's making them act out that way. Unfortunately, in 2012, my best friend passed away of cancer, and she was living out at Yellow Point Lodge and on the property out there. So I was helping her, and one afternoon we were singing songs that we used to sing when we were kids, and Barb started to cry, and she said to me, "Glynis, I'm so sorry I was so mean to you, and that troll thing that I did to you back in the day was just the most terrible thing," and there hadn't been a day that had gone by that she hadn't thought about it. So anyway, she asked me if I would write a children's book on the troll incident, as we coined it over the years, and if I would publish it and go to schools and talk about bullying. I went home that evening and I wrote the book, The Barbara and the Troll, and she absolutely loved it and made me promise once again that I would get it published and go talk to kids about the effects of bullying, and to talk about the troll incident and how it made me feel way back when. Little did I know that day that she would pass away 3 days later. And so I've tried to fulfill her promise. I wanted it to be authentic, and I just thought using our real faces and the real place, that then they would be, you know, there forever. I didn't have much luck with the 3 illustrators. I did get one beautiful illustration out of a local fellow in town, and he gave me the permission to use that one for my book, which I did. It's the candy shop scene, and I decided then that I would actually try to illustrate it myself. I'm not a computer genius at all. I'm a bit of a dinosaur. So what I really did was the old way. Cut and paste is more than keys on a computer, kids. It's actually cutting, drawing, and pasting, gluing, which is what I did, and that's how I illustrated my book, using the real faces. In the whole book, I've tried to put eagles and bears, which are very prevalent in the little bush town of Ocean Falls. It's almost like, where's Waldo? This one is quite interesting. It's the real streets of Ocean Falls. But I've managed to put in all my own little pets and stuff as well. Like, here's my little cat that's buried right out here in my yard. And this is kind of for my kids and for my family. I even used a picture of my brother. This actually was taken at Heathrow Airport, and he was standing next to Cassius Clay. This is when we immigrated in 1965. I've used my grandson's picture because he just had that look on his face and his little fists were up that day. That's the actual photograph of myself, and believe it or not, that's my husband Wayne when he was 10 years old. So I've made them into the bullies. I really didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. That wasn't the purpose of this book at all. These are actual real photographs and I used this in the context that we now had friends. We've lost our accents and we're not getting bullied anymore, and we actually had friends, and this is a couple of the little birthday parties, actual photograph. This one is the actual plane that would actually take you to Ocean Falls. They were float planes. This one is one of the bullying scenes. I've also used my real life dog, Buffy. This is me on the other side of the road. And this is actually Barb's real face. And I've also used her beautiful daughter's face, Camille. And Barb's family are very supportive. They've been to my book signings and they absolutely love the book. And they know Barb would be very proud looking down. I also used my two nieces in faces in this picture. Again, not to hurt anybody's feelings. Here's the one where I'm walking to school that day from Burma Road. And this is the day where I feel like I had butterflies in my stomach and I kind of was anticipating that something was going to happen, which it did. So this here is the scene where I walk into the classroom and I find the troll note on my desk. And I felt like everybody was looking at me, waiting for something to happen. And they were. A lot of people ask me, is this the real troll note, Glynis, that you've kept all these years? No, it is not. And to be quite honest with you, the names on the note are not the names of my classmates from back in grade 7. These are all my friends and relatives' names that I've used on this note, except for, of course, Barb's and Susie's. Susie was one of my friends from that grade 7 class. She's still my friend to this day. And she was the one that made such a big difference to this book, for she was the one that stood up, even though everyone else in the classroom signed that horrible note. Susie did not. And that is a lot of peer pressure for a child. But you do have a choice. And I think that's why she's so important to this book and to the message. And this is me with my real face from the grade 7 photograph that I had. Running out of the classroom after finding the contents of the note. This picture here means an awful lot to me. A lot of people don't understand and will never know really until now. I brought my husband and my son back to Ocean Falls because, like I say, it's abandoned pretty much now. It's a ghost town. There's no businesses that are around there. So I brought them back to Ocean Falls, and we brought Barb's ashes back to Link Lake. And this is the actual photograph that I took that day at Link Lake. The Northland Prince was the boat that took us to Ocean Falls back in 1965 and before that. It was decommissioned years later and taken to the Falkland Islands to be used in that war. And after that there was a ferry that is now still going to Ocean Falls, actually. And that's my book, Barbara and the Troll.
According to the National Center for Bullying Prevention, 1 out of 5 students will report bullying. More than half of bullying cases will stop when a peer intervenes.